Long Island medium Theresa Caputo's daughter Victoria Caputo's divorce. Son-in-law goes to police after mother-in-law's intervention. Theresa Caputo, the famous Long Island medium, has taken another dramatic turn in her family. After the marital feud between her daughter Victoria Caputo and her husband Michael Mastrandria reached a climax, Theresa herself intervened. According to reliable sources, Theresa filed serious allegations against her daughter's husband and handed him over to the police. This incident further increased tension in the family. However, in the end, their divorce was legally finalized. It is clear that Theresa Caputo did not want to take any risks with her daughter's future and held her position firmly. Victoria Caputo sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the divorce papers. The ink was dry, the signatures were in place, and yet her heart felt heavier than ever. She had married Michael Mastrandria with dreams of a lifetime together, but reality had shattered those illusions. Her mother, Theresa Caputo, had seen the storm coming long before she did. Theresa, known for her strong intuition, both as a mother and a medium, had warned her daughter, but Victoria had been blinded by love. Now, as she looked back, she wished she had listened. The final straw came on a cold winter evening. Michael had returned home late, his words slurred, his temper flaring. Victoria had never been afraid of him before, but that night was different. When he raised his voice, she flinched. When he grabbed her wrist a little too tightly, she knew it was time to leave. She ran to her mother's house, tears streaming down her face. Theresa didn't ask many questions. She simply held her daughter close and whispered, "Enough is enough." The next morning, Theresa took action. She confronted Michael, demanding answers. He denied everything, but Theresa saw through him. She made a call to the police. Michael never expected his mother-in-law to go to such lengths, but Theresa was unwavering. "No one lays a hand on my daughter," she had said. When the police arrived, Michael tried to resist, but it was too late. The truth was out, and there was no turning back. In the following weeks, the divorce was finalized. Victoria felt a strange mix of sadness and relief. She had lost a marriage but regained her sense of self. Theresa stood by her side through it all, proving once again that a mother's love knows no bounds. As Victoria signed the last of the legal documents, she looked at her mother and smiled for the first time in months. "Thank you," she whispered. Theresa squeezed her hand. "You don't have to thank me, sweetheart. I'd do it all over again." However, Jennifer had always been a skeptic when it came to psychics, mediums, and anything remotely supernatural. But when her grandmother passed away, leaving behind a letter instructing her to visit Long Island medium Theresa Caputo, curiosity got the better of her. Reluctantly, she booked an appointment. As she entered Theresa's home, she felt an eerie yet comforting energy. Theresa greeted her warmly, her signature blonde hair and dramatic nails making her seem larger than life. "You've been carrying a heavy heart, sweetheart," Theresa said, closing her eyes. "Your grandmother is here." Jennifer's breath hitched. There was no way she could have known that. "She says you haven't read the second letter." Jennifer's eyes widened. "The first letter? Yes, but a second? That was impossible. She says to check the back of the old photo album." Doubt gnawed at Jennifer, but that night, she rummaged through her grandmother's belongings. And there it was, a hidden envelope tucked behind a faded picture of her grandparents' wedding. With shaking hands, she opened it. "My dearest Jennifer, if you are reading this, it means you took a leap of faith. I never told anyone, but our family has always had a gift. One I believe you possess too. You've felt things, seen things you can't explain. Don't be afraid. Embrace it. Theresa will help you understand." Tears welled in Jennifer's eyes. Had all those strange occurrences in her life been real? The whispers, the vivid dreams? The next day, she returned to Theresa. "Teach me," she said, her voice steady. Theresa smiled knowingly. "I was waiting for you to ask." And so began Jennifer's journey into a world she never thought she'd believe in, a world where the dead spoke and the living learned to listen. However, the snow fell gently outside Theresa Caputo's Long Island home, blanketing the streets in a peaceful white glow. It was Christmas Eve, and the house was filled with the warmth of twinkling lights, the scent of freshly baked cookies, and the soft hum of holiday music. Theresa, dressed in a festive red sweater, sipped her hot cocoa as she admired the beautifully decorated tree. This year was special, she could feel it. As a medium, Theresa had always felt spirits around the holidays more strongly than at any other time. The veil between worlds seemed thinner, and tonight was no exception. As she adjusted a golden ornament on the tree, a sudden chill ran down her spine. She turned slowly, sensing a presence in the room. "Okay, who's here?" she whispered, a small smile playing on her lips. She had spent years helping people connect with their loved ones, and tonight it seemed someone had come to visit her. A soft voice echoed in her mind, gentle, familiar. "Mom?" Her heart skipped a beat. She knew that voice. It had been years since she lost her own mother, but the feeling was unmistakable. Tears welled in her eyes as she felt an overwhelming wave of love wash over her. "Ma," she said aloud, barely able to contain her emotions. The flickering candle on the mantel suddenly steadied, its flame burning brighter than before. Theresa closed her eyes and took a deep breath, embracing the warmth of her mother's presence. "You're always with me, aren't you?" she murmured. A soft, comforting energy surrounded her, almost like an invisible hug. In the distance, the radio changed psalms on its own. The familiar melody of Silent Night filled the room. "Sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace." Theresa let out a small laugh, wiping away her tears. "I hear you, Ma. I love you." The warmth lingered for a moment before slowly fading. The candle flickered once more, and then all was quiet. Theresa took a deep breath, smiling as she whispered, "Merry Christmas." Outside, the snow continued to fall, blanketing the world in a serene silence, a reminder that love never truly fades, and those we've lost are never far away. However, Theresa Caputo never imagined herself coaching a soccer team, but life had a funny way of surprising her. When her grandson's Little League team, the Long Island Thunder, lost their coach at the last minute, the desperate parents turned to Theresa. "But I talk to spirits, not kick soccer balls," she protested. Her daughter, Victoria, crossed her arms. "Ma, if you can channel messages from the other side, surely you can channel a little soccer wisdom." With no way out, Theresa agreed. She showed up to practice in her signature high heels and bedazzled tracksuit, standing out like a beacon of glitter among a sea of cleats and shin guards. The kids stared at her, unsure what to expect. "All right, listen up," she clapped her hands. "I may not know much about soccer, but I do know energy, and right now, this team's energy is all out of whack." The kids exchanged glances. "First things first," she continued, eyes narrowing as if sensing something unseen. "Before we kick a single ball, I need to check the spiritual vibes of this field." She took a deep breath and suddenly gasped. "Oh my God, there's a spirit here." The kids froze. A couple of them looked like they might bolt. Theresa turned to a nervous-looking boy named Danny. "Sweetheart, do you have a great-grandfather who used to play soccer?" Danny's eyes widened. "Ah, yeah, my great-grandpa Giovanni. He played in Italy." Theresa nodded. "He's here. He says you've been doubting yourself, but you've got his talent. Trust your feet. Oh, and he says your mom's lasagna recipe is all wrong." Danny's mom gasped from the sidelines. I knew something was missing. From that day on, the Long Island Thunder had a secret weapon, Coach Theresa's supernatural guidance. She didn't just teach them drills, she connected them with their ancestors, channeling the wisdom of past soccer greats. Under her mystical coaching, the team transformed. Their passes became sharper, their teamwork stronger, and their confidence soared. By the time the championship game arrived, the Thunder was unstoppable. Just before the final play, Theresa felt a familiar chill. The spirits are saying, "Go left," she shouted. Danny followed her advice, dodging 2 defenders and scoring the winning goal. The crowd erupted in cheers. Afterward, the kids surrounded her. "Coach Theresa, will you stay with us next season?" She grinned. "Sweethearts, I think I just might. But next time, I'm getting sneakers." And so, the legend of Coach Theresa, the Long Island medium-turned soccer coach, was born, where the game was played not just with skill, but with a little help from the other side. However, John Cryer never believed in mediums. The idea of communicating with the dead felt absurd to him. Yet, as he sat across from Long Island medium Theresa Caputo in her warmly lit reading room, he couldn't ignore the tingle down his spine. "This is ridiculous," John muttered under his breath. But something, maybe curiosity, maybe desperation, kept him from walking out. Theresa, with her signature blonde hair and long nails, closed her eyes and inhaled deeply. "I'm feeling a strong male presence around you, John. Someone who passed suddenly, unexpectedly." John's skeptical smirk faded. His brother, Michael, had died in a car accident when they were teenagers. He had never spoken about it publicly. Theresa continued, her voice softer now. "He's showing me a red bicycle. Does that mean anything?" John's heart pounded. The last memory he had of Michael was the 2 of them racing their bikes down a steep hill. Michael had won. That night, he never came home. "Yeah," John whispered. "That was his bike." Theresa opened her eyes, her gaze locking onto his. "He wants you to know that he's always been with you. He saw your first big role, your marriage, your heartbreaks. He's proud of you, John." A lump formed in John's throat. He had spent years wondering if Michael blamed him for what happened, if he had somehow been responsible. Theresa smiled warmly. "He says to stop beating yourself up. It wasn't your fault." Tears welled in John's eyes. He never thought he'd be the type to cry during a reading. But in that moment, the weight he had carried for decades felt just a little lighter. Maybe, just maybe, there was more to this world than he had believed. However, Wendy McClendon Covey had always felt a lingering sadness when thinking about her late Aunt Margaret. Margaret had been her biggest supporter, always encouraging her to pursue acting, but she had passed away before Wendy found real success. There were so many things left unsaid, and Wendy wished for one last moment with her. One evening, Wendy's assistant told her about Long Island medium Theresa Caputo. Though skeptical, something inside her nudged her to reach out. A week later, she found herself sitting across from Theresa in a cozy, candlelit room. Theresa closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and immediately smiled. "She's here, loud and clear," Theresa said, tapping her nails on the table. "She's got a big personality, doesn't she? Very sassy but loving?" Wendy gasped. "Yes, that's Aunt Margaret." Theresa chuckled. "She's saying, 'Tell my girl to stop feeling guilty.' I saw everything, every award, every role, every so proud." She's also mentioning a green scarf. Tears welled up in Wendy's eyes. "I have her old green scarf in my dressing room. I always keep it with me." Theresa nodded. "She wants you to know she's with you every time you see that scarf. And one more thing, she says to stop doubting yourself. She says, you were always meant to shine, and I never needed to be here to know that." Wendy covered her mouth, overwhelmed with emotion. It was exactly what she had needed to hear. As she left the session, a strange peace settled over her. The weight she had carried for years suddenly felt lighter. For the first time since her aunt's passing, she truly believed that Margaret was still with her. Hello, lovely viewers. Welcome to my channel. I am Mina. Hope your day is so well. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe the channel.